And good evening, everyone. Wherever you guys are coming from specifically. I know it's very late where I am at the moment, but we got a lot tonight to talk about. So I decided to have a show. So without further ado, I'm with one of my coworkers for tonight, Nate. Nate hasn't been on in a while, so it's great to have Nate back on for tonight. We'll also have a couple other guests, Isaiah Leon, as well as James Gonzalez. So, Nate, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
I am excited after our Game 4 win over the LA Lakers. And just an interesting thought, we ended up sweeping the LA Lakers 4 games to 0 after, and then right after that, we hear a report that LeBron is interested in probably considering retiring. Interesting enough, Tom Brady had decided to hang up the cleats right after his embarrassing wild card round loss against the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. So, just an interesting connection I have noticed.
Yeah, so we'll talk more about your Nuggets, Nate. But it's obviously that must be really exciting. We'll go through all of that tonight. Kind of the schedule for tonight will be, of course, the Celtics in terms of my team, in terms of where they stand. I got a lot to get off my chest in terms of that. And then we'll kind of go through the Western Conference. We'll recap that series specifically as we're getting closer and closer to potential, finals, rematch. I wouldn't say rematch. I guess matchup. As we're getting closer to that specifically. If you guys have any questions or comments, you know, uh, before we kind of get into everything, feel free. Just making sure, in terms of how where you guys can see us outside of here. We do Sports Weekly with Isaiah and Laura. We also do Batter Up. We haven't been doing those shows as of late, but that's where you can obviously access my stuff as well as the stuff outside here. And then any type of my social media platforms as well. Very active via Twitter and stuff like that, and Facebook. So any type of stuff specifically in sports as well. I'm also a part as well. So without further ado, we will also have another guest as well here. We have Isaiah Leon. Isaiah is a Laker fan, so he is, of course, going to have a lot to say in terms about his Lakers. Isaiah, of course, I bet you're probably not in the greatest of moods for tonight, my friend, but how are you doing at this current time? And like I said, we'll get into, in terms of everything, in terms of the finish, I guess you can say that. So how are you doing tonight, Isaiah?
Yeah, great to see you guys, Ben and Nate. I'm not doing like the best right now, just because I felt like I honestly felt like Game 3, the Lakers, if they had won it, they would have had a chance. But tonight I kind of resigned myself to the fact that they were gonna lose, or if they had won tonight, it would have been great. But I still think they would have lost the series anyways. But yeah, it's just the way that they lost just really sickened me, especially when you were dominating in the first half, up by 15, and then to go down the way you did. And then now you hear the news that LeBron might actually hang it up this offseason. So it's going to be a good show. I can't wait. I know me and Ben have a lot of stuff to get off our chest, especially after what happened to the Celtics last night, especially and then tonight with the Lakers. Like I honestly, the last 48 hours, I I just can't believe what has gone down in the NBA. Like it just seems so unreal to see both what happened to the Celtics and then what's happened to the Lakers throughout the 4 games just happen. Like it's just been absolutely crazy. But Nate, I know you're a Nuggets fan, so congrats to you and the Nuggets on reaching the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history.
Yeah. So we'll get into all that stuff down the road here. But this also is another show, so it's another post game show in terms of the Celtics, as we are getting closer to our game 4 of that specific series. As we are going to recap now game 3 of that matchup, as the Miami Heat now are up 3-0. In this overall series. I was going to change it to 2. You know what? I'm not even going to put that overall thing out there because of how embarrassing this overall finish was. But uh, without further ado, we'll kind of start going through the overall thoughts of this game. The final score was a lot to a little. It was not pretty. It was 128 to 102 in favor of the Miami Heat. Um, after the first 2 games in Boston, I thought they would split. Gotta give a lot of credit to Miami where credit's due. But this obviously was a pathetic, embarrassing type of showing for the Boston Celtics. It might have been the most pathetic overall showing of any team uh, in the NBA playoffs so far. I mean, uh, just as a whole, this this team just gave up. This team specifically has really completely broken me, fans. That's not the Celtics basketball that I've known or seen. For most of this season specifically, and I can surely say at this point in time, now they're up 3-0 in this series. It's pretty much all about over. Game 4, I'll watch it. It'll probably be it. Pretty much specifically, I'd rather get swept and then be humbled to just keep on letting this go out and dragging it out. This is kind of an overall way of telling me that Joe Mazzulla is just not specifically ready. He's not ready for this moment. But your players as a whole too. I mean, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, been absolutely way too inconsistent this whole entire playoffs. Jaylen only had I think 14, JT not much better, and they didn't shoot from 3 at all. I mean, they kept on shooting 3 and 3 and 3, and they just kept missing. And then Miami just kept on going more and more, to the basket. Their fans started to get into it. It just essentially speaking, guys specifically, the Celtics have been broken. There's no other way. The Miami Heat specifically have taken souls from the number 1 seed, the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis. They went and played the Knicks specifically. They took their souls, and now the Boston Celtics souls. This is the best team this rest of this basketball playoffs. And Nate, I'm not discrediting the Denver Nuggets because I think the Denver Nuggets are a fantastic, fantastic team. But in terms of the overall way and the style of play that they're playing, in terms of a confidence level, I've never seen a team where Jimmy Butler can just lead a group of men that are undrafted players out of all things, and they're completely just buying in. And they're just essentially against the Boston Celtics team with all this talent. I mean, they're making them like a high school team right now. I mean, I'm using some Isaiah lines. I'm just that frustrated. They're making them look like, I can't even explain it. I really can't. I'm just disgusted. I think specifically, I don't go into in terms of where things go from here, but I want to give you guys, a chance to talk about in terms of what you feel about this series as a whole. I'll start with Nate. Nate, of course, now Miami's up 3-0. What do you overall feel in terms of the Celtics as a whole in this series? What do you feel about the Heat in this series specifically? Do you personally think that the Celtics have completely been broken after the way that he had been playing the first 3 games?
So I'm actually going to go ahead and start with the Heat first and say that, we got to give credit to where credit's due.
Oh, of course.
I feel the same thing. I feel the same thing in hockey for the Florida Panthers. You look at Miami Heat, they go in, they make the plan. they go in and actually lose to the Atlanta Hawks in the play-in, have to play the winner of Toronto and Chicago, which I believe it was Chicago. They beat them, and then going into what you're talking about, Florida Panthers, their story where they actually were down 3-1 in the first round as the lowest seed in the playoffs,
in Boston.
and they are going all the way in and make it to the conference championship. So Southern Miami sport and Southern Florida sports as a whole is doing a fantastic job, and you got to give credit to where credit's due for both teams. Now, I'm going to compare a couple of teams here to where I'm about to my next take. Boston Celtics, I feel like their problem is, I said this on my own show earlier today. The Boston Celtics have their big two main guys, but I don't feel like they have another player to step up besides those two stars that they have. And, you look at other guys around them, and I feel like you look at the Lakers. Lakers were kind of that way as well, except for one person, and that was Austin Reeves. You look at the Denver Nuggets. You have, oh gosh, I'm blanking on names right now.
Jokic, Murray.
What?
Jokic, Murray. You have
I was more talking about more of who's I can't remember, the guy that they got earlier this year from the Washington Wizards also used to play for Isaiah's Lakers as well. I can't remember his name.
Caldwell Pope,
yeah, he stepped up really, really well in this series, and even some of the games where it looked like it was a hard-fought battle, game 2 and game 4 as well, where it was really closer than what expected. I liked how some of their players, Nuggets players, have stepped up, and that's really what Denver has struggled with in the years past. But again, going back to Boston, I think that's really the reason why they're not doing well this season, is because the matchups just weren't there against this Miami team. And I'm gonna make a sweeping declaration. I think Eric Spoelstra from Miami Heat, best head coach in this NBA, and I don't think it's even close.
Isaiah, and Nate, I definitely agree with a lot in terms of what you're saying. I think for me though, specifically, and I'll get to Isaiah after. The Heat right now, specifically what the Celtics are currently missing, is a buy-in culture. The Celtics specifically have a lot of great talent, but when it gets deeper and deeper come playoff time, and I'll get into Joe Mazzulla because, man, oh man, after the comments that he said after last night's game, boy, that drew me off the edge. That completely drew me off the edge. Isaiah, what's your overall thoughts in terms of this game 3 between the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics? Obviously, as a Laker fan, you're probably feeling the same boat, down 3-0. Like, kind of, where do you go from here? Now, of course, I'm feeling it going to game 4 tomorrow. Is there any type of small, slim hope for the Boston Celtics to even make this a potential going back to game 5 and at least giving the Miami Heat a little bit of I don't want to do this, but, they're pretty much in the driver's seat at this point in time specifically. It's the way things are kind of happening right now. So I'll take it to you, Isaiah. What do you think?
I was really shocked yesterday because I did not really have the chance to watch the entire game since I was at work yesterday. But I did I kept track of the game on my iPad as I was working, and I just couldn't believe my eyes. Like, with today's second half of the Lakers game, it was kind of like that with the Boston-Miami game, where I just thought I was dreaming. Like, I could not believe what I was seeing. I was like, I thought that it was going to be a competitive game. I thought that Boston was going to come out strong. I thought they were going to come out on a mission, because it's a win or die game number 3, because you don't want to get to a game 4 where you're down 3-0. So I thought that Boston was going to come out strong. I thought they were going to come out and try to save their season. But Miami was just making everything from three. I mean, it seemed like guys like Strus and Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, they couldn't miss from downtown. And it just seemed like the Celtics were playing lackadaisical. They were playing like they were treating it like a preseason game. And I just couldn't believe that was going on, because this was the most important game of the Celtics season, and they just didn't show up. And that's just utterly shameful that you just don't show up, especially given what's at stake if you lose this very game. So that's why I was really, really shocked when Miami was up by, I think they were up by as much as 20 in the first half. They were up by like as much as 35 in the third quarter. Like, I just could not believe my eyes watching what was going on in game number 3. It wasn't your classic Jason Tatum performance, Jaylen Brown. It wasn't your classic his performance. You didn't get the classic games that you would get from Marcus Smart or Malcolm Brogdon or any of the top players that that what you're going to get on a consistent basis. It just seemed like a bunch of aliens abducted those players and just replaced them with alien versions of those players. Like, they did not look like their normal self that we've grown accustomed to seeing for the last several years. And, honestly, this entire Celtics Heat series has been kind of what game 3 was, which is shocking. I think that all of us thought that the Heat would give the Celtics issues, right? We all thought that the Celtics and the Heat, it would be a great series, but I don't think anybody had the Miami Heat just dominating, like completely outclassing the Boston Celtics and in the first 3 games of the series. Like, it's just absolutely has blown my mind what has gone down with the Boston Celtics. And, yeah, we're going to get into Joe Mazzulla in a bit. We're going to get into Tatum and Brown in a bit. But, I want to give credit to the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat are just playing out of their minds right now. I mean, this was a team that was on the brink of getting eliminated when the fourth quarter of that play-in game versus the Bulls started. Like, they were down by, I believe it was like 5 or 6, and momentum was in Chicago's side. And so the fact that they were able to rally back and win that game was a huge statement. And then beating the Bucks, upsetting the number 1 seed, that was a huge statement. Then beating the Knicks, and now doing this against the Boston Celtics. Like, it's just been really impressive what this Heat team has done, led by Jimmy Butler, who's had a hell of a playoffs. And then it's been the role players stepping up, like Nate mentioned. Guys like Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson, and also Bam Adebayo as well. And remember, they're doing all of this without their second leading scorer in the regular season, Tyler Hero, who is sidelined with a hand injury. That's why this is even more impressive if you think about it. So credit goes to the Miami Heat. What an outstanding ball club they've got there. And as far as the Celtics are concerned, I think that, we'll talk about Mazzulla in a bit, but I think that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown has to bear the brunt of what's gone on in this series as much as Mazzulla does. Because, we talked about what Tatum did not do in game 1 and 2, which is in the fourth quarter, number one, you cannot not take a shot in the first quarter of game 1. That's absolutely unacceptable. You're the superstar of the team. The fact that you don't take a shot in game 1 is unacceptable. And then number 2, in game 2, you only take 2 shots and you miss them both. Like, the fact that you're not even being more aggressive in game 2, that itself was unacceptable. And then in game 3, like you mentioned, Ben, just chucking up 3 after 3 after 3 after 3, trying to match Miami's 3-point shooting when they clearly didn't have it, instead of driving to the rim, instead of moving the ball around, getting good possessions. And then on defense, it just seemed like every time the Celtics did not make a shot, they wouldn't run back on defense. They would slouch on defense, allowing Miami to get open. So I think, honestly, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both have as much to blame as Joe Mazzulla, because at the end of the day, the players play the game, and you're Jason Tatum, number one. You cannot, have a combined, I believe from what I read, it was Tatum in the fourth quarter of every game has scored 0 points. That cannot happen. You cannot score. Like, I understand it was a blowout yesterday, but you cannot have 0 points in the fourth quarter of each game. That just can't happen. Imagine what we would be saying to LeBron James or Steph Curry if any of those guys had 0 points in the fourth quarter of the games. Like, that just can't happen. And then Jaylen Brown, you talked about wanting a big-time new contract. How do you only have, I believe in game 2, he only had 16 points in game 2. And then yesterday, from what I'm reading right now, he only had 12 points. Jaylen Brown has come up extremely small in the last 2 games of the series. I know the Heat have played great defense on him, but still, you got to find a way to be more aggressive and to not just keep trying to chuck threes, especially when you're not making them. So I think that Tatum and Brown has a lot to blame. And then Joe Mazzulla, like you mentioned, Ben, he's got to go. And I think that yesterday was just more evidence of the fact that he's just got to go, because I think he's definitely lost the locker room. Even he himself admitted so that, hey, yeah, I lost. He said, yeah. When asked if he lost the locker room, he said, yeah, I got to figure out how to get better and how to fix what's wrong. So he's clearly lost the locker room. Players aren't responding to him. And if Brad Stevens and the Celtics keep him for another year, then you're going to see what you saw this year in the playoffs. It's going to be a good regular season because the Celtics are that talented. But in the playoffs, it's going to be another meltdown because we all see that Mazzulla's too small for the moment, and also the players just don't respect him. And I think Woj said something today that they're not over the firing of Ime Udoka. They thought that it was a huge overreaction and that Boston should not have handled it the way they did. And I think right now there's some fracture in that Celtics locker room. And it's a shame because this is a team that was so together for last year's playoffs, and it's just so shocking and a shame to see how a complete 180 it's been this year, where you got turmoil, you got drama, you got chaos, you got a fractured locker room, coach losing the locker room, and I don't know how you gain it back. Firing Mazzulla is obviously the first step, but firing a coach can't really just change a broken culture itself.
Yeah, I'll kind of go through in terms of how I feel in terms of where things go. Isaiah, I know that you had some comments about Mazzulla, but the biggest comment that really took me off is she said, I didn't have these guys ready to play. Excuse me? Excuse me. You're down 2-0 in this series. They took 2 games at your place. You've been arguably one of the best road teams in this playoffs. You have this golden opportunity right here to get yourself back in the series, and you're just making these excuses now left and right that your team was not ready to play. That's on you. That's not the players. That's on you. And I get it that the players have been completely underperforming. I get it. It's typically on there. But you're the coach. You're the guy that's going to be the leader to get these guys ready to play. And if you're going to have that specific type of mindset against one of the best coaches, like Nate said in Eric Spoelstra, you don't deserve to move on. You're just not ready for the built in the moment. In terms of firing Mazzulla, Isaiah, I'm very 50 about in terms of your comment. Do I feel like he's not ready yet? Yes. But I'm going to give him one more chance. I think specifically that the Celtics are going to look at some outside, options right now. Personally, I know a lot of Celtics fans are like, let's look at Monty Williams. Let's look at Nick Nurse. I personally think specifically that they need to go back to a defensive-minded type of a coach. Heck, I want to be even opposed to potentially bringing in a guy like KG or just a players type of a coach. But Tom will tell terms about that. What I'm really worried about specifically is the Brown and Tatum situation, because I think specifically that they're great together specifically. But now you're starting to feel about the turmoil of, can they win a championship together? It just, until the Celtics, Jalen and Jason don't win one, they're going to keep on having that same question year after year and year. And it sucks. It sucks. Right now, Jimmy Butler right now, can Jimmy win it all? The Celtics right now are kind of feeling that with their overall 2 stars. In terms of the overall stats wise, Tatum 14 points in 33 minutes, Jalen 12 points in 28 minutes. Heck, Peyton Pritchard had the same amount of points last night as Jalen Brown. And I love Peyton, but that just simply can't happen. Your stars. Derek White 9 points. Grant had 12 points. Another thing too, Isaiah and Nate, Joe went back to the starting lineup without Rob Williams. He completely has been changing it left and right. Like he just feels like he's trying to just create all these buttons at this point in time. And he's trying to just get everything. It just between the locker room, between just him saying that they're like lost their defensive identity, even players are saying it, Al Horford saying it. It just completely unraveling. It's been an absolute mess. Like I understand specifically, as I know you're frustrated that the Lakers getting swept, but really in a lot of these games specifically, at least they showed up. At least they showed a fight typically against the Nuggets team. In terms of the Celtics right now, the Celtics completely aren't even competitive. I mean, yeah, they were close in the first two games, but they weren't even competitive in game three. Heck, I just wanted to at least be competitive. Go out there and play. You didn't even look like that. You looked like game three, Joe took all the starters out. I mean, excuse me, especially you were the one that said that you weren't ready to play these guys. This is what you get. I remember even before the game, I was seeing videos on Twitter of guys in shoot around for the Celtics just fucking around. They're just going out there. Like, I understand you want to be loose and you want to be this and that. You're down 2-0. I know Miami. I know Jimmy Butler want to have that happen. I'm telling you that right now. So I'm telling you right now, I hope game four that they can at least show me some pride. I know the players after the game are saying that, see how it goes. Because I know Marcus and Jason and Jalen have been around with the team for about 4 years, 5 years. And I know for a fact specifically that they have what it takes to win a championship. I do. I personally do. I think specifically if Jalen Brown ever walked, which he's a Supermax eligible for next year, what do you have to replace him? Right? You can maybe make a trade for a guy like Donovan Mitchell. You can make a trade potentially for a Damian Lillard or a Bradley Beal, but that's not guaranteed. Jason, essentially speaking, if Jalen leaves, there's gonna be a lot in terms of they're gonna pay Jason. You don't know how Jason will feel if Jalen leaves. That's one of his best friends. That's one of his best friends specifically. So the Celtics right now specifically have to really look into the mirror deeply. And I love this team to heart. But the Miami Heat, the way that they've been playing right now, and like I said, Nate, I tip my cap to them 100%. But I'm completely just shocked in terms of the effort. I think that if the Celtics are going to go down with the fight in terms of the rest of their season, go down with a fight. And I did not see that whatsoever in game three. And with the way that the coaches were saying in terms of just all these comments specifically, it just drew me off even more. So hopefully in game four that they can really respond. I'm obviously, I don't want to be on here ranting after game four because specifically I'm not expecting them to win the rest of the series. They're down 3-0. Miami's completely just, taking control of this series. Maybe take a win, maybe show some heart, maybe go down without a fight, and maybe lose back in Boston because they don't know how to win in Boston. They just don't. Between the Bruins and the Celtics, the whole entire playoffs, they have not. If you told me this date in Isaiah, I believe I saw a stat that the Celtics and Bruins combined this postseason in Boston, I think they're like 3-9 in terms of it's a complete. If you told me that Boston is specifically one of the best home court, home ice type of places, and they've been completely dog crap. It just absolutely mind-boggling. So I would not surprise me whatsoever that we took one in Miami, we had shown a little heart, and then went back to Boston and laid it there. Personally speaking, I'm not sure where things are going to go with it, but it's brutal. It's really just tough to watch. I just hope that they come back and play with some heart, play with some pride. And another thing too, guys, is Al Horford specifically. Al Horford, last playoffs had very big signature moments in this playoffs. The thing about it, and I agree with Nate in terms of this, yes, Jalen and Jason haven't been to their overall standards, but usually in that last finals run, they had guys that were stepping up left and right. This year, it's just like, we're trying to find maybe some guy can step up. Maybe Malcolm can step up. Maybe Derek White can step up. And it's not coming together. And you look at the Miami team, on the other hand, they are coming together at a red-hot pace. You could see Duncan Robinson could be really good one night. Max Kruse, Bam Adebayo. Oh, my goodness, he is completely, Bam Adebayo is playing more like the prime all-star Bam Adebayo against the Celtics in this series compared to last series. So
just
they
one
looked at
quick
that series last year against us, and they took that to heart big time. So all I got to just say is, man, great team that they have over there. Spoelstra is one of the best, but obviously the Celtics are in big trouble. So that's pretty much all I have to say.
Just one quick thing. You said that you were talking about Bam Adebayo. If I'm not mistaken, he's one of those people that actually got down hurt in the first series against the Bucks. If I'm not mistaken, in the first game, he wasn't out for long, but he was hurt a little bit.
I know Jimmy got hurt in the Knicks series, but I don't remember about Bam. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, though.
Well, Ben, I think to your point about Missoula, the reason why I think Missoula will be fired if the Celtics end up getting swept or if they lose in 5 is because someone's going to be scapegoated for this. You can't be the number 1 or the number 2 seed and everybody or most people pick you to go to the finals and end up getting embarrassed like this. If the Celtics played the Heat competitive, right? If they lost every game thus far by a buzzer beater or they lost on the final possession, then I don't think that anybody would be scapegoated. Everybody would be just like, okay, the Heat played a great series. They won the 1 possession game. Congratulations to them. You're going to tip your hat to them. But it's the way the Celtics lost. The fact that they got just flat out embarrassed to the point where they almost lost by 30 points in game number 3. That itself is a fireable offense.
I couldn't even watch the last 5 minutes. I was that embarrassed. I was just like, I'm ready to turn this off. If you're gonna play like this, why do I care? And I think a lot of people on social media and stuff like that, this Celtics Heat rivalry, I think, is gonna just keep on going higher and higher. Specifically, I think specifically with the way I'm looking at this right now. The Heat got our revenge from last year. The Celtics, essentially, if you want to play like the way that Miami did last year, get some guys in, built in a culture. And I think the one guy specifically, Isaiah, is Monty Williams. I think the Celtics, you bring a guy like Monty Williams in, a guy specifically where I think that he could lead a group of men. I think Joe Mazzulla specifically could still be on this coaching staff. I think the way I saw with Ime Udoka, Joe Mazzulla could still be on this coaching staff. I just don't know specifically if he is head coaching material. That's what I'm saying specifically. If Nick Nurse is on the phone, if Monty's on the phone, if they have other guys specifically, I would not be surprised if it's a Mike Budenholzer situation like Milwaukee Bucks. But it would take a lot. Like Brad Stevens is absolute genius in the front office.
Yeah.
So I trust in terms of what he's going to do. So the time and place, it's going to be very fascinating in terms of the Celtics exit interviews because I think a lot of guys are going to say, well, we just completely underperformed, just underachieved. But like you said, somebody's going to get scapegoated at the end of the day. So
well, and also Mazzulla said he lost the locker room. So if he did really lose the locker room, there's no way you can get the locker room back. Like once you lose it, there's no way you can get it back. And I think it goes the same with Darvin Ham. The reason why I want Darvin Ham to be let go, it's not because I don't think Darvin Ham can coach. I think Darvin Ham can coach, but it's the fact that you have all these great coaches that are on the market right now, like Monty Williams, Nick Nurse, who's won a championship and is well regarded as a top 7 head coach in the NBA. If these top coaches weren't available and out there on the market, then I would probably say, keep Mazzulla. He went to the Eastern Conference Finals. You don't fire him after that when he went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Same thing goes with Darvin Ham. Go from 2-10. To the Western Conference Finals. You don't fire these coaches, but the fact that you have so many outstanding top of the tier coaches available is what makes me pause and say, you know what? Go ahead and fire them because they might be good coaches, but you just can't pass up the opportunity to go out and get a Nick Nurse or go out and get a Monty Williams to be the head coach of your team because these opportunities just don't seem to come around every so often.
Another thing too, before I get into Nate's Nuggets, and I want to congratulate Nate's Nuggets for sure after in terms of a great run, is I'm looking at this way. As I know that Darvin Ham specifically, and I kind of said this specifically in terms of how I felt about the Lakers before the overall playoffs. You need to have culture, you need to have heart, and you need to have coaching because yes, talent is great, and most of the time, specifically, talent wins you championships. But as you've seen in terms of the NHL Stanley Cup run, and you've seen in terms of the NBA playoffs right now, the four teams specifically, the two teams that are going to be in the overall playoffs, I mean the final playoffs, are going to have guys with great coaching staffs, a couple great overall star players, but a lot of role players as well that have been very good as a whole. And we'll talk about in terms of the Nuggets in terms of their overall, uh, you know, run, going, of course, their first finals ever, which is completely mind-boggling to me because I feel like they were in one in the past. But
They
one
were
guy
in one.
we
They weren't part of the NBA at the time, but they were in one.
okay. I felt like they were in one, but it must have been forever ago. The one guy specifically, Isaiah, and they hear me out for the Celtics that could be a wild card in terms of a coaching gig, Jay Wright from Villanova. I think specifically Jay Wright is going to have a very underrated coaching search because I think specifically the Sixers are going to be looking at a lot of coaches, and Jay Wright I think will be on the top of their list. That takes them out, and I think specifically Isaiah, Nick Nurse is going to be high on the list for the Los Angeles Lakers. I really do between him and and who's it? Doc Rivers. I don't know about Monty Williams specifically, but I do specifically think that the Los Angeles Lakers are going to have the same philosophy as the Philadelphia 76ers. They're essentially going to see this guy from a distance and see it. And Rob Pelinka is going to say, is this the long term answer? And I think specifically Darvin Ham, they gave him a chance. I just don't think that he's the long term answer. I don't know about Joe Mazzulla too. So I mean I'm in the same boat as you. So, everyone's wanting Celtics Lakers banner 18, but now we're looking at specifically is our coaching, good enough? Is there some players that can be shake up? Um, and Nate obviously told me this off the air, I believe, in terms of LeBron James. Isaiah, in terms of where did the Lakers go from here? Because obviously I kind of got myself the Celtics stuff out of the way. Game 4, by the way, we will preview after we recap the rest of the Nuggets in terms of Nate's overall opinions as well as Isaiah's Lakers. Isaiah, of course, I know you'll probably take some time to kind of decompress and see in terms of where do the Lakers go from here. Obviously, in terms of the coaching situation, LeBron James had some very cryptic comments after tonight's game. So where do you think things go from here?
Well, um, before I get into that, let me just say this. I think Ben, you and I are both in the same boat where after game 3, we just both kind of resigned ourselves to the fact that we're gonna either get swept or we're gonna lose in the conference finals. Like it's gonna happen. Like no team has ever come back from 0-3 down to win a series. And with the Lakers' age, it just seemed like it wasn't gonna happen. It just seemed like it wasn't gonna happen. So during this game, I was watching the first half of this game, and I was really shocked by what I was seeing. It got to the point where I had a little inkling in my heart that I was like, maybe this is the team that breaks that 0-3 deficit curse because LeBron is playing out of his mind. I mean, he had like 31 points in the first half, just completely unstoppable. Guys like Schroeder was stepping up. Anthony Davis had a quiet first half, doing well defensively and also rebounding. And then Reeves hit a couple of nice threes, and he was very aggressive. Like I had a little inkling in my heart, like maybe this is the Lakers team that actually comes back from 0-3.
04 Red Sox.
Yeah, it's like the 0-4 Red Sox, exactly.
That's what we have to feel right at this point in time. All we got to do is pray.
Yes, exactly. But. And then I don't know. See, fellas, this is the thing. I don't know why this is the case, but literally every time my teams dominate or they're looking really well, and then it's halftime, and then I go and take a shower, I go somewhere else to do whatever I need to do, and then I come back to watch the game. It just completely flips. And this is exactly what happened. The Lakers were up by 15. They were dominating. It just seemed like Denver was just so emotional about every single bad foul call that they thought that it was a bad foul. They were just complaining to the refs. It just seemed like emotionally that, that the Lakers had snatched their souls and that we were going to go back to Denver for game 5. I go take a shower. I come back. And then all of a sudden I look at my phone and immediately my jaw dropped because I'm like, it was a 15-point lead for the Lakers, end of the first half. I go in a shower, and then the Denver Nuggets are all of a sudden up by 6 with about a minute left in the third quarter. And I was like, what just happened? Like, it was the same reaction that I had with the Heat Celtics game 3, where I was just like, what just happened? I couldn't believe it. The Lakers forgot how to play basketball in the third quarter. I mean, they got away from what was working in the first half, and they just completely switched everything around. And, I think my biggest takeaways from this game is obviously, credit goes to the Nuggets. I had some question marks about Denver throughout this whole season. I thought that Denver, like Ben's Celtics from last year, I thought Denver was a fraud. I thought they were a pretender. And I think I even said this on one of our shows that the Denver Nuggets aren't doing anything. They're a fraud. And that just completely backfired on me. I guess I should stop, saying a team is a pretender because that's always going to backfire. But credit to the Nuggets. They played a great series. They played a great game. Jokic was absolutely unstoppable, especially like the lucky shots that he hit where like the time's running out, he steps back and you're like, oh, he's not going to even get a shot off. And then he somehow just chucks up a 3 with one of the worst shooting forms that I've ever seen. And he somehow makes it. And then I'm just like, how? But yeah, credit to him. Credit to guys like Michael Porter Jr., who finally looked like a top pick in the draft. He finally stepped up. Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray was an absolute animal. KCP as well. The Nuggets have a really good team. They're a true contender for sure. And, I can't wait to see what happens in the NBA Finals when they play, either the Heat or the Celtics. But credit goes to them and Mike Malone. I mean, that guy should have never been fired by the Sacramento Kings. The fact that he got fired by the Kings when it seemed like they were turning it around, I kind of knew from like when he got fired that, okay, if this guy lands another coaching job, he's going to be a great coach, because you could just see it in Sacramento that his message was hammering home and that he was looking like a really good coach. So just kudos to him. But about the Lakers, I think two things. Number one, Darvin Ham needs to be fired, and Nick Nurse needs to be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. And the second thing is, Rob Pelinka better have, after the game, he better have gone to Kyrie Irving, who was courtside, and got on his knees and begged him to come to LA. Because that's what you need. D'Angelo Russell proved it in the series. He is not your long-term answer as your quote-unquote third star. This guy showed he did not show up in this series. He showed us what he is. He's a guy that's, he's talented, but he's very, very inconsistent. There's a night that he's going to average or he's going to give you 30. The next night he'll give you 5. And then the following night he'll give you 3 points. And then he'll give you 9 points. And then he'll give you 40 points. And you're like, what? What just happened? D'Angelo Russell is a player that I don't think any of us are really going to understand. With Kyrie Irving, yeah, there might be a lot of times that he misses games because he's got issues going on in his head and whatnot. But when Kyrie Irving plays, you know what you're going to get on a consistent night in and night out basis. He's going to give you at least 20 points. He'll give you a great shooting night from 3-point range. And he's a guy that's going to be a threat every time he's on the court. When D'Angelo Russell was on the court, the Nuggets really, it just seemed like they were always hunting him on defense, and that the Denver Nuggets were, they didn't really fear D'Angelo Russell offensively. So it seemed like they were just doubling AD. They were zoning in on LeBron, and that was it, because you didn't have that third guy that could take attention off of LeBron and AD, which was supposed to be what D'Angelo Russell's job was. And, I think Darvin Ham said this the other day, that D'Lo, he doesn't want to bench him because the Lakers fear that he's going to get his feelings hurt. Like if you're going to be that sensitive over getting benched, then you obviously don't deserve to be a Laker or even a player on a big market team because, this is the playoffs, man. You're supposed to do what it takes to win a championship. Nobody cares about, your starting minutes or how many minutes you play. It's about how effective you could be for the team. So I just think D'Angelo Russell, he cannot be brought back to the Lakers. Absolutely not, especially with what you showed or what he showed during the series. And, like I said with Mazzulla, the reason why Darvin Ham needs to be fired is he did a great job with this team. He went from 2-10 to the conference finals, did a great job with this team. But it's the fact that you have veteran championship coaches available. If Nick Nurse wasn't available, if guys like Monty Williams, Mike Budenholzer, if they weren't available, then I would probably say keep Darvin Ham because you just can't get a great upgrade. But they always ask, who are you going to upgrade a coach or who are you going to upgrade to replace this coach if you fire him? And the answer is simple. You got Nick Nurse, you got Mike Budenholzer, and you have Monty Williams available and Doc Rivers as well to be an upgrade over your coach. There's great upgrades at head coach. So I think the Lakers need to do it, especially after the LeBron pondering retirement news that came down just a short while ago. I think the Lakers need to go all in because I truly believe that, and we'll get to the LeBron stuff later, but I think that LeBron James, this is going to be his final year in LA, and you got to go all in. Forget the picks, forget the young players, go all in on winning a championship because if you don't win a championship next year, you're not going to win a championship for the next 5 to 10 years because LeBron is gone. AD will be getting older. Who knows how the roster is going to look? You're going to be in salary cap hell. It's just going to be really bad moving forward for the Lakers. And as far as where do the Lakers go from here, Kyrie Irving's got to be the number one target. I would have told you before the playoffs I wanted to keep D'Angelo Russell just for depth. But I think after these playoffs that it just became really clear that the Lakers need to get a third star because LeBron's not what he once was. AD can't do it on himself. You got to get a third star, and you got to upgrade the coaching for sure.
Definitely, Isaiah. And I think specifically you'll know more in the exit interviews from a lot of players, from coaches, in terms of where you think the direction's going to be. And before getting to the Nate's Nuggets, and obviously have a lot to say about that, I think the biggest thing about the Lakers was D'Angelo Russell was an absolute no-show in this playoffs, and you had to be able to get production from a guy like this. Another thing of mine, Austin Reeves has given me a lot more respect. I remember, Nate, I don't know if you remember Isaiah, but Isaiah made Austin Reeves before the season made it not like he was like the next MJ. And, I was like joking around with him like, dude, like Austin Reeves only averages like 7 points a game. What the heck are you talking about? He shows up off the bench. He's a bench scrub. But the way that I saw him in this playoffs, the way that he was going game in, game out, he brought me a ton of respect. And he's going to be getting a payday now. There's going to be some team out there specifically for Austin Reeves services. They're going to be like, I want this guy on my basketball team. So I obviously I apologize in terms of a lot for I know Isaiah has a lot of that. I will take the overall apology in terms of for that because he is a hell of a player. He's a great overall player. Austin Reeves is. So that was another takeaway of mine. And then for me specifically in terms of LeBron, I know LeBron wanted to play with Bronny Jr., right? I'm pretty sure Bronny's coming up soon. So I think specifically, I know that he probably had some stuff afterward, but a lot of the times the players, as well guys too, is you can't always believe in terms of what they say in terms of right after it's something like that. Sometimes it's a heat in the moment type of a thing. I remember a couple of times. I think for the Patriots, some guys obviously having some comments, and they kind of be like, "Oh, they maybe said something down the road." They backtrack, but yeah, I mean, LeBron doesn't have many more years left, whether it is or not. We're getting to this point in time, and I wanted to talk about Carmelo Anthony, by the way, guys. He is officially called it a career after a fantastic, legendary type of overall career. And I guess LeBron actually had some comments where he made he actually helped make the video. of Carmelo Anthony's retirement. So that was actually pretty fascinating to see as a whole. So I think in terms of for the Lakers specifically, it's finding a new coach. I don't know if Darvin Ham's the answer down the road. And then two, how about Trae Young as well, Isaiah? Because I know Trae Young was at a couple of Laker games in the playoffs. I think specifically if you got like a Trae Young or a Kyrie, with LeBron James and of course Anthony Davis, I just think specifically, I think I think a lot of similarities between the Celtics and Lakers this year. Do you guys feel like your team in LA was overall like soft, or you guys feel like you guys were a pretty bought-in type of group? Because I know the Celtics specifically compared to the Miami Heat series, and this Miami Heat series, the Celtics have been absolutely soft. They need to get some buy-in type of guys like a Dylan Brooks, something. I know they have Marcus Smart, but they don't have the full-on leadership to lead this group of men, kind of compared to a guy like Jimmy Butler and company. They need to get like a PJ Tucker in there that can just absolutely go and get these guys, fire up. Heck, they had Peyton Pritchard trying to lead the group of men at the end of the game last night. That's how embarrassing it was. They had Al Horford. I love Al. But, they were starting to have players just kind of come together, and they're just there's no answers. So I just want to get kind of that stuff out there. Nate, now let's go to you, my friend. Of course, we talked about our chirping about the Celtics and Lakers, but now we'll take it to you, my guy. Your Denver Nuggets are going to the finals. That's extremely exciting. I'm really happy for you. I'm a big fan of Nikola Jokic. And, oh, yeah, by the way, too, I don't like the Lakers. So I also thank you for your services on that. So with that being said, my guy, how do you feel about this? And I mean, in terms of the Miami Nuggets, I don't even know, like, how I would feel because, like, I respect the Heat as well, too, in terms of their overall journey. But it's just, like, it's going to be, like, I don't even know. I'll ask Isaiah this, too. Like, I don't even know, like, what I want to, like, pick for. It's just one of those series that just, like, I just don't know what to say. But I'll go to you, Nate. I'll talk about in terms of this overall series with you so far. And obviously, I believe Jokic won MVP for this Western Conference Finals. And then what just should have been your overall thoughts about this season for your Nuggets?
So I'm actually gonna go ahead and like with the Celtics Celtics Heat. I'm gonna actually go ahead and talk about the Lakers first before we go ahead and talk about Denver. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I don't think if you look at all four sports, the NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, I honestly think the NBA is where the coach matters the least. And I say that because you look at the San Antonio Spurs. Greg Popovich's still there. But then after they go ahead and lose Tim Duncan, weird. They're now in it, having terrible seasons back to back. And you go in and, okay, these great coaches that have been advertised as great coaches, I feel like that's only true because they have a star on their roster. Or they have 2 stars on their roster. Or they have 3.
I can see that.
That being said, you gotta give Darvin Ham credit because you look at, okay, I'm going to go to game 1. That game was a whole lot closer than it should have been.
I remember that.
The first 3 quarters wasn't even close. They go into the 4th quarter. And the Lakers at one point even made this a 3-point deficit. That's how close it was. Game 2, Nuggets struggled until it was the 4th quarter. They still found the way to win, but they struggled. Game 3 is another story, but the game 4 is pretty much the same story as game 2. Except it was the 3rd quarter where Denver started to pull out instead of the 4th. And I guess I'm not saying that coaches don't matter, but I think out of the 4, they're the ones that really matter the least. Now on the flip side, and I talked about some of the matchups with Heat and Boston Celtics. I'm going to go ahead and dive down deeper into Lakers and Nuggets. I just didn't think the Lakers, honestly, I just didn't think it was matched up very well. I mean, you look at Anthony Davis. Okay, yes, game 1 he put up 40 points, but really his defense was not there. His defense was not there at all.
They had Tristan Thompson making more of an impact tonight than Anthony Davis. That should say a lot. And Tristan Thompson was on NBA Today like 4 or 5 weeks ago.
And we talked, I think it was about D'Angelo Russell. All he was just doing is moving around the court, not making any shots or blocking. He's just running, sprinting.
You know that meme of like, what does he even do? That was D'Angelo Russell for the Lakers this series.
You should be doing track and field and not basketball, apparently. As for the Nuggets, going back to Miami Heat versus Boston Celtics, I think the Miami Heat was, without a doubt, the worst matchup that the Boston Celtics could get in this playoffs. And I feel the same way about Denver. I like how, you could put some of these guys, and it's going to be a whole lot. It's going to be more of a dogfight than anything. I do not see how this series ends up sooner than 7 games. I think it's going to be a 7-game series. I don't see how it's not.
Yeah.
I think Denver is going to win because I don't like Miami's chances at playing at Denver. But I don't see how it's going to be 7 games, my series. My prediction, Denver in 7.
I think for me specifically, and I'm kind of taking this under the assumption that we're going to probably be balanced, whether it's next game and the game after. And Isaiah, you might want to put your camera on when you want me to hear. I got the Miami Heat win the NBA Finals. I have seen it all. I know this is a very hot take, but I'm seeing a couple things. I'm seeing, one, they don't care about the opponent. They don't care how good they are. They just literally look at the other team and just like, we don't care, we're an 8 seed. We're essentially they're like a March Madness type of underdog type of team. They're like the Creighton Blue Jays going to play against like the number 1 Virginia Cavaliers, number 2 Gonzaga, Bulldogs. They're just going through this and enjoying the ride. And I know in the past, like, they reminded me of like the bubble 2020 Heat, but I think specifically this year they're even deeper. They have guys that are off the bench specifically. They can shoot left and right. And the thing about the Denver Nuggets, Nate, and then as great as a roster and they are, and like I wouldn't be surprised if they won it all, because I think that as of right now that they might have, if the Celtics go out in terms of the two teams, they have the talent, but Miami's beaten Milwaukee, which is by far, arguably has one of the best players in basketball, in Giannis. New York, okay, decent team. Jalen Brunson's an absolute dog. Boston, we're one of the best, deepest teams in basketball, lies aside. And then Denver. I mean, Denver right now, between them and Boston, Denver obviously has great talent. But like I said, I think specifically it comes down to coaching. I think Spall, the thing about the Heat too was they adjust so well on the fly. That's the thing about, Joe Mazzulla. It'll be like a little bit of a run, and, Joe Mazzulla will take up to like 2 points after like a 12-point lead. Oh, yeah. Oh, now we'll take a timeout. And one of my buddies actually, funny enough, he was at the Celtics game. He's a Celtics fan. One of my buddies from college. He went to the game, game 2? And he was just joking with me yesterday. He's just like, I think the Celtics were up right at halftime at like 12 or something like that. And, Miami cut it to like 2. And my buddy's like, my buddy essentially said from the crowd, he's like, oh, now you want to call a timeout. And I was just joking. I'm like, yeah, because you look at what the Heat would do, right? The Celtics went a little run. Eric Spoelstra would be like, timeout. right away. And just like that's the difference between in terms of coaching right away in terms of how you feel down the stretch. So, um, but in terms of obviously we'll talk about the finals and the matchup and stuff down the road when it happens. But I have the Heat. I with all sense that I have the Heat go in the final specifically, and obviously if the Nuggets do it, I'd be happy for them too because like I said, I essentially am out in terms of my team. I'm just gonna watch it. Like Isaiah, me and we're just gonna watch it. And we're just gonna see what happens at this point. We don't have a say. Um, but I think specifically for the Nuggets, Nate, which I really like, is they have a great coach. They got a great deep roster with guys that are contributing. I saw Michael Porter Jr. was a stud in the series. He was shooting left and right. Aaron Gordon was grabbing buckets left and right off the bench. Oh, he wasn't off the bench, but I feel like from offensively and defensively, just getting boards left and right. Um, and just the Joker is just an absolute bad man. He is just an absolute bad man down stretching games. I mean, I knew I had no doubt specifically under a minute left. I said the Lakers aren't stopping this guy. They're just not going to stop him. And that's the star player that he is. He's pretty much a guy specifically. Like the game horse guys. Obviously, you guys have played horse. He's essentially a all-in-one type of horse player. He could pass it right. He can shoot from everywhere. Essentially, he can make layups. He can do sky hooks. He can do passes across the body. This is the guy specifically. You don't. It's like a create your 2K player, and essentially just put him out there, and he's now absolute superstar. So, I'm really happy for him in terms of that Nuggets team. Jamal Murray. I mean, Jamal Murray, he was dropping buckets left and right. He is an underrated superstar in my eyes, specifically. I don't think he gets enough credit where credit's due. I remember in the bubble too. I don't remember, Nate, who the Nuggets played in the finals where he got bounced. I think it might have been maybe the Clippers. I'm not specifically sure. But Jamal Murray in that bubble, he reminded me in terms of his overall performance in the series specifically.
The first round of the bubble, we were down 3-1 and we beat the Jazz.
That's right.
Second round, we were down 3-1 again and we beat the Clippers.
Yeah, I remember that. Okay. So yeah, I mean, you guys definitely have a bright future ahead. I think specifically this is just the start for you guys in terms of your culture, in terms of your overall talent. You guys are creating something with that Nuggets team that will go on deeper and deeper as years go by. So like I said, Nick, congratulations to your Nuggets. Really happy for them. And like I said, in terms of my Celtics, and tomorrow, time will tell. I'll probably be like Isaiah tomorrow and say, what we got to do for the off season. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that I can kind of talk about maybe, I don't know, them showing up. Maybe if they show up and lose, I'll take it off the chin. If they don't show up like yesterday, boy, oh boy, I'll have some stuff to say off my chest. That will not be pretty because, it's almost 3 a.m. my time. So, I'd rather just keep my comments to myself. So that's kind of the NBA stuff, at least for tonight, that we'll discuss. I wanted to quickly get into Carmelo Anthony really quick before we turn over to the MLB segment, and then we'll go into trivia to conclude tonight's show. What in terms of the overall thoughts of this, I was surprised. This was just kind of came out of nowhere. I know that Carmelo's kind of he's not the same guy he used to be once was. But he was just still kind of, around there. I know he was a free agent out there and kind of no team wanted him. But Carmelo Anthony, I've had many memories in terms of watching Melo play. And I've actually saw him play. So actually when he got traded to the Knicks, I was fortunate enough to go to one of his first games at MSG. And it was one of the most electrifying it was against the Bucks, I remember. It was against actually young Giannis. And it was one of the best performances I've ever watched him play. It was just the overall vibe and electricity in NYC. Obviously Melo was a Syracuse guy. I'm a UConn guy. So obviously I did a lot of battles against Melo for that. But he's just an overall stud. He was an overall stud in terms of his career. Nate, I'll go first with you. What's your overall reaction of this news for Carmelo Anthony as he put out a tweet today saying that he is completely done playing the game of basketball? I wouldn't be surprised maybe if he's going to be in like a terms of a coaching role or something at least off it. But in terms of his overall plan, he has said that he is all set and done.
Oh, no doubt. I think he's going to start off as a coaching role, but I don't think it's going to be more like an NBA. I think he's going to be more like a college basketball coach. But as for the news, I kind of was surprised as well. I think I started watching NBA when he was like on his last couple of years with the Portland Trailblazers. Before he got traded to the New York Knicks. And coming in about this, hearing about this information just kind of shocked me. Because it took me a little while to figure out how long he actually played in the league, because I was not sure about that information. However, yeah, it kind of did shock me as well.
And Isaiah, I'll take it to you, my friend. What was your overall thoughts on this breaking news from today?
I was really shocked, like you, Ben. This kind of came out of nowhere, like you mentioned. I thought that Melo was gonna, take a year off and then come back to play. He did it once before when he took a year off, and then the next year, I believe he signed with the Blazers, which rejuvenated his career. And then after that, he played with the Blazers for a couple of years, and then he signed with the Lakers afterwards. He was definitely a certified bucket getter. I mean, this guy, he was really lethal offensively. Was probably not the best defensive player in the world, but on offense, I mean, this guy had all the tools in the box. And, whether it was the post game, the 3-point game, the mid-range game, I mean, whatever era you put him in, this dude would be able to get a bucket. I mean, that's how good Carmelo Anthony was. And he could definitely get buckets in any sort of way, and it was just sad to see him not be signed to a team this season. I really wanted the Lakers to get him. I thought that the Lakers could have used him before we got all those 3-point shooters, because we needed a guy that could shoot the three, and he was definitely a guy that was out there, or the best guy that was out there that could shoot the three. It really bummed me that the Lakers weren't able to sign him, but he had a really good career. I mean, he made the Nuggets really exciting before this current group that they have right there in Denver. He really rejuvenated the New York fan base, which really didn't have anything to be excited about after the Patrick Ewing years in the late 90s. And then you talk about what he did for Portland and the Lakers, just making it very interesting in the final years of his career. It's sad that he didn't win a ring, but he had an outstanding career, and he's probably, if I had to give like a top 5 offensive players in the NBA list, he would probably be up there and on the Mount Rushmore of the best offensive basketball players in the game.
I'm looking at his overall stats from his career. So he started his career in 2003-04 with Denver. He finished off his career in 2021-2022 with the Lakers. He actually played 69 games played, which is kind of crazy to think. And he averaged 13 points. It's not like, he completely fell off. I think specifically he was just kind of ready for a new change in his life after a 19-year overall span of playing. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously is big for him. He played with Denver for a little bit to start his career. Then he went to the Knicks. He played in OKC for a year, the Rockets for a year, and then 2 years in Portland, and then 1 in LA. So he was kind of bouncing on left and right, but really the kind of his mainstay was really in New York and Denver. So that obviously was something there. But congratulations to Carmelo. I just really want to quickly have that out there for you guys and kind of get your reactions from that news. We will now quickly go to the MLB, and I know I got your message, Nate, that we're getting, obviously we're getting closer to the end of tonight. We're getting kind of late at this point in time. So obviously, Nate, we'll get really quick to you, my friend, in terms of Texas and the Rangers, because I haven't really talked to you in a while in terms of how they've been doing, and they've had a pretty good start to the overall season so far. They're still up there in the AL West. Let's see, and they've had some injuries. I know Jacob DeGrom is hurt. I feel like I'm a broken record while saying that, which I feel bad for him. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. But I just feel for him right now. Hopefully he gets better for sure in all retrospect. But the Rangers are 29-18. They have a 617 percentage. They're 6-4 in the last 10. Obviously now Houston's getting Altuve back, so obviously Houston is starting to play a lot better as a team. But Nate, I'll go to you, my guy, because I don't really watch Texas that much. What's been your overall thoughts so far in the Rangers season? As we're kind of now about a fourth and a way through, we're kind of getting to that point in time where you can kind of start to see, okay, the team's going to be potentially in there for the mix. I kind of look at it kind of after Memorial Day, but I'll go to you, my guy. What do you think of the Rangers so far?
So Texas Rangers is kind of a goofy story. They definitely do have the batters. No need to have any discussion on there. They can score. They swept the Colorado Rockies, and I think they've scored double digits in all of them except for the first one. But I don't think they're going to hold on to that first place title for long. And I say that because Houston's on the rise.
Yep,
and they play the Brewers, and then they go in and play some of our divisional opponents in the Angels. I think that's who they play up next. Angels is a decent team, but not anywhere near the point where we are at. However, we play the Pirates, and the Pirates have surprisingly done really well. Doing really well this year. Then we go out after we finish this. We go out and play the Orioles.
Oof.
And so we're now on the rougher part of the schedule where we're probably going to be seeing more losses than I like. And so I think really where we lack is pitching. Other than I really do like Nathan Eovaldi. From the Boston
right
Red Sox. But
you get tickets for that.
And I think we also really lack help over in that left outfield area.
Yeah, I mean, I think for you guys specifically that you've had a great start. But that division, I mean, I look at it right now. Angels are 26-23. They're even in third place. I think Houston's really going to be the favorite down the stretch. But I think, Isaiah, you had Texas going pretty deep in this overall season so far. So in terms of one of your takes, at least in baseball, at least it's not like the Tigers where you picked last year, I believe, to win the division. So you're actually on a decent pace for this one. So, I don't know if you want to say anything in terms of Texas right now, but there's another.
Well, the worst part is, Ben, this year I picked Detroit last year to win the Central, and then this year I followed it up by picking Kansas City, and they ended up are one of the worst teams in the AL Central. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I picked the Royals to go to the ALCS too. So that was an even worse prediction.
Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know how I felt about that kind of as a whole, but yeah, Nate, obviously great for your Rangers. I got your message specifically. So my guy, appreciate you
I'm
coming
gonna
on.
go ahead and hop off.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, Nate. For at least for tonight, if that's it for you. And feel free, you can come on, when we ever have the next one or next one's coming up. So I appreciate you coming on tonight. And by the way, again, congrats to your Nuggets.
Thanks.
So that was Nate. Appreciate Nate coming on. It's been a while, at least since he's been on. So we'll finish off tonight's program with Isaiah, and we might have a little bit of trivia to finish off for tonight. Isaiah, obviously your A's, they're still right down there in the basement. You got to feel 20 games below AL West. You don't really have to say much about that. But one thing I did see about the A's specifically is they fired I believe, their play-by-play broadcaster. So I did want to get into you in terms of your overall reactions on that.
I wasn't surprised because when you say the word or the stuff that he did, that got him in trouble, there's no coming back from it. Like, I know it doesn't matter if you are a guy that's been in the business for 50 years or 5 years or even 5 months. You just can't say that type of stuff in today's world and get away with it and only be suspended or get a slap on the wrist. I mean, if you utter that word, whether you mistakenly did it or whether you purposely did it, you're going to get fired. That's just how it works. And so when he apologized after he said it, my thinking was like, there's no way he'll be brought back because it's just bad PR. And also in today's world, you just cannot use that word and not get away with just the slightest of punishments. But I think like looking at that situation though, it is unfortunate because I do think that he was a very quality announcer, and he's a guy that is not one of the best announcers in baseball, but he is not racist, right? He's not known to have had any incidents besides that one. But then again, it's like if you have only one incident in today's world, it's just like you're gonna get canceled, and that's what happened in this situation with Kuiper, the A's announcer. But I mean, Ben, you mentioned how the A's are 20 games back in the AL West. I'm surprised it's not even more. I mean, this team, this is probably the worst pitching staff that's ever been assembled in the game of Major League Baseball. I mean, that's how pathetic they are. They just can't seem to not give up runs. They give up like an average of like 5-7 runs per game. And I think Ben is having some. We got you there, Ben?
Yeah, I could hear you.
All right, yeah, the A's the pitching staff is just atrocious. If you sent them to pitch against a high school baseball team, they probably would give up 12 runs. I mean, that's how pathetic they are. They just can't seem to not give up runs, and it's just not what you want to see, obviously. But I mean, they played the Astros tough, which I'll give them credit, but they still got swept. They played the Mariners now, I believe.
Yep, they lost 11-2.
Yeah, they lost 11-2. The big thing is if the A's have some good pitching, not even great pitching, just have some good, competent pitchers, I think this team could be way better than what it currently is right now. But it's just that the pitchers can't give up runs, and then when you get into like big deficits, you're getting down like 5-0 before you even have a chance to bat. The game's practically over at that point. So yeah, I think the A's are going to probably have the most amount of losses for any team that's played 162 games. I don't think that Kruse will be back after this year just because I think for him mentally. Yeah, I think for
him. I feel for him, though, too.
Because I do, especially like when you have to go through all those losses. It's just the way that they lose, like if you were losing competitive games, like we mentioned with the Celtics Heat, if you were losing like on the last, if you were losing like 2-1, right, or you were losing 3-1, that would be like I'd be okay with that. But it's the fact that you're getting blown out every single game is just like, okay, you don't even have a chance in any of those ball games. So I think Mark Kotze's days in Oakland are numbered. I think that a lot of these players that you see on the A's probably won't even be back next season. And I don't know where you go from here, honestly, because it's not just that the major league club is bad, but also you don't really have a good farm system. So that makes it even worse. When you're a losing team, you typically have a good farm system, but for some reason the A's are now in a situation where their big league club is awful and their farm system is mediocre. So I honestly don't know where you go from here. As far as the Phillies are concerned, credit to them. They beat the Cubs. They rebounded, and they won back-to-back games against the Cubs and won that series. But overall, it was a bad week for them as well because they won 2 out of 3 against the Cubs. But in their previous series, I believe it was against the Giants. It was against the Giants. They got swept. Yeah, they got swept, and then they lost tonight against the Diamondbacks. And now, we talked about that big stretch that the Phillies are going to come up against in the future. Well, that stretch is here now with the D-backs for 3. They lost tonight, so you got 2 more against the D-backs, and then you got, I believe, 3 against the 4 against the Braves in Atlanta, which is a very tough place to play. And then you have 3 against the Mets. So the Phillies are on their tough stretch now, and I don't know how they're going to be able to figure it out, because the Phillies are kind of like the A's, where one game the pitching can't pitch, the offense puts up a lot of runs, but it's still not enough, and then the next night the offense doesn't show up, but they get really good pitching. So it's just been a lot of inconsistencies all across the board.
Yeah, it's really hard to, go anywhere when you have too many inconsistencies. And that's the thing about for me, and I'll get to my Red Sox as of right now, as we're talking. In terms of the A's, though, really quick, Isaiah, I think specifically that the A's have to start making some trades for guys like Brent Rooker, Ramon Laureano, Jesus Aguilar. I mean, there was some guys specifically on that and the overall lineup that I think you can trade for to get some really good pitching prospects back. I think that's where at least you start. I don't know if you agree with me. Obviously, firing Kruse, it's a scapegoat in terms of approach, but I think that they have to go somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think that Kotze definitely will be gone, because, if they had lost 90 to 100 games, okay, you could keep him because he has no talent to work with. But he's going to lose at least 130, maybe 140. Who knows? And that's going to be an MLB record. And, you're going to be looking down the barrel of having the worst baseball team in MLB history. I mean, that's something you don't want to be known for. As far as your idea about Rooker, I would trade Rooker, but the only problem with that, though, is that he's got 4 years of cheap control left. And for a team like the A's that value the cheapest of all contracts, I don't think they'll be wanting to trade a guy who's very talented and he's on a cheap deal. So that's another issue. And then the other issue with the A's in terms of the trades is, if you look across the roster, there's really no player that really excites you, that you're like, okay, I want this guy, I want that guy, like you had in previous years with Matt Chapman or Matt Olson or even Sean Murphy. Those guys have already been traded. And now you're looking at guys like Aguilar, Rooker. I don't think anybody will want the pitchers, because everybody on their pitching staff has like ERAs like 5 point whatever or higher. Like nobody's
What's
going
the
to want.
Rays? The Rays have a generational pitching lab that they can get guys with like 5 ERAs and turn them into ones. It's insane.
Yeah, exactly. But I think there's like only 2 guys that I could see getting traded. Jesus Aguilar and possibly Brent Rooker, and maybe Ramon Laureano, but he's only hitting like 220, so that's another issue. But I think the other guys, it's like I don't think teams would want them. Like who would want a guy like, for example, Jurice Familia, whose ERA is like who ERA was 8 point something. And then Zach Jackson's ERA is like 6.60. Shitaro Fujinami's ERA is like 15.33. Like,
Yeah.
who would want that garbage?
Yeah. Well, no, it's tough. I'll have to obviously pull in terms of maybe they'll get to 20 wins within the next month or two. But with that being said, I'll go to my Red Sox. The Red Sox are currently 26-22. They're in 4th place, which this division specifically as a whole, Isaiah, I saw this stat, I believe, the other day. The Red Sox currently right now, I believe, are the 6th or 7th best overall record in the American League, and they're in 4th place. And the Blue Jays are in last, and the Blue Jays overall as a team are stacked offensively. That's how crazy this stand-in as a whole is. The Yankees are playing much better baseball. I think Stanton's coming back soon. Baltimore's, of course, still playing very solid. And the Rays, of course, are still the Rays. So, it's going to be a really great fight down the stretch. In terms of this past week, the Red Sox got swept last week against St. Louis. That was a very disappointing overall series. But then they responded. I went to the game against the first game against the Mariners, and that was absolutely terrible. 2-1 in person at Fenway this year. 10-1 loss. This is a game I went to. And then, of course, I didn't show up the next two games, and the Red Sox played great. They won. Next game they won 9-4, and then they won 12-3. Even beat Luis Castillo in one of those games, and Castillo is one of the best pitchers in baseball, so that was great. And then the Red Sox went to Petco. They had a reunite with Xander Bogaerts, which was very emotional for me. And the Red Sox took 2 out of 3 in that series. So that the Red Sox took the last two series, they won two back-to-back series after getting swept, which was a great sign for this Red Sox team. The Red Sox as a whole, have done a really good job of facing adversity. They've gotten a lot of great pitching as of late. Chris Sale, James Paxton have been great. The pitching as a whole has been great. They did lose today. Your favorite guy, Mickey Moniak, took it today. The Angels won 2-1. So James, obviously, I'm gonna have obviously my overall bragging rights if we win this series because we already took the last one. But if they win, he's gonna give it to me for sure. But yeah, they won 2-1 tonight. But the Red Sox as a whole have been playing a pretty decent stretch of baseball. They've obviously had some stretches here and there, but compared to last year was so unwatchable. I mean, this season as a whole has been a lot better. At least they've been competitive. Like you said with the A's, the Red Sox as a whole, I can watch every single game and be like, okay, the hitting could be great one night or the pitching could be great. I just hope specifically it can kind of come together. And I think kind of by that specific time, this team could be kind of around. They can make some noise. They have a lot of great young talent coming in right now that's been playing well. So time will tell in terms of that. The Red Sox coming up, they have the Angels to finish off still in this series for 2. Then they actually go to Arizona. Arizona's been a great surprising team as a whole. They played them this weekend, and then they go back home to play 3 against the Reds, which I think they'll win that series pretty much. The Reds aren't good at all. And then they have a 4-game series at home against Tampa, and that's going to be a very fascinating type of series. I believe 2 weekends from now. So hopefully they can at least split. I'm pretty much asking for that as a whole from there. So with that being said, I think we're going to quickly get into some trivia because we're getting really late now. And Isaiah, we'll only do like 3 questions. We're not going to do as many questions at least here. But we are going to do football. I think we're doing football for tonight. So I'll take it to my guy. I know James typically it's kind of the other guy here, so it's pretty much just a singular overall type of night at this point in time. So I'll put your overall knowledge here to the test here. We'll start with this one. What team was originally named the New York Titans? New York Giants, New York Jets, Kansas City Chiefs, or the Tennessee Titans?
The New York Titans.
Yeah, that's
Ooh.
what team was originally named the New York Titans. So the answers were the New York Giants, the Jets, the Kansas City Chiefs, or the Titans.
Oh wow! I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the New York Jets.
You're actually right. Yeah, it was the New York Jets. So the New York's original AFL team was called the Titans. This started in 1963, and then they changed the team name to the New York.
Ben, we got you. You're frozen on screen right now. It looks like we may be dealing with some technical difficulties, guys. We'll wait a few minutes for Ben to hopefully get back. But yeah, as Ben is currently frozen on the screen currently. Yeah, well, I mean, well, since we're doing some football trivia right now, let me see. I do have my guy Chardot here. As Ben is frozen. Chardot, what's up? Oh, do I think we have Ben back?
Hey, what's up, Isaiah? How are you doing on this
Do we
great
have
night?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or we got you back, Ben.
Hey, gentlemen, how are you doing on this fine night?
Ben, do we have you?
can hear you?
Okay, we got you. We got you.
Okay, we're good now.
It's still slightly freezing a little bit, but try to turn off your camera. Maybe it'll work better.
Okay,
Because I know sometimes the video can disrupt some of the signal.
can you
Yeah,
hear me
let's try
now?
it. Try it.
Okay, I'll keep my camera off for the rest of the program as we're almost towards the end here. So my second question was for you was what team won 3 Super Bowls in the 1990s? The Cowboys, Patriots, Niners, or Broncos?
3 Super Bowls in the 1990s. Oh, wow. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos with Elway.
So you're wrong here. It was
Oh,
the Dallas Cowboys.
oh,
Cowboys won 3 Super
right.
Bowls. It was 1993, 1994, and 1996. The Denver Broncos and Niners each won 2 Super Bowls in the 1990s. Let's kind of go to one. This is actually a really interesting question. I'm actually going to let me see. Okay, which NFL team features a helmet logo only on one side of their helmets? The Patriots, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, or the Steelers?
Oh.
It's a really
Is it
fascinating question.
is it Pittsburgh?
You're actually correct. The Pittsburgh Steelers are
God,
the only NFL team to display their logo only on one side of their helmet. It says in 1962 that the team was not sure how their new logo would look on the solid gold helmet. They tested it out and they wanted to keep it just on one side. And then we'll finish off, I would say, here on a high note. So, who holds the best rookie passer rating in NFL history? Is it? This is actually an interesting one. Is it Tom Brady, Dan Marino, Dak Prescott, or RG3?
ooh, best rookie passer. Wow. I don't think it was Brady because I know Brady. The Patriots ran more of a run-heavy offense back in the day. When he was a rookie. I'm gonna go out and say Dan Marino.
This is actually Dak Prescott.
Wow.
Dak
Okay.
Prescott finished his rookie season with a passer rate of 104.9, breaking the previous record from RG3 in 2012.
Wow.
So that was at least 4 or 5 questions there to kind of cap off tonight's program. Isaiah, as always, thanks again for having me on. I know it was a kind of a bittersweet type of program with you in terms of the Lakers. I'll probably have that same overall feeling tomorrow when we have our post-game show. Make sure to tune into that. By the way, guys, there will be kind of a kicking it with Kruse type of after effect, but it's going to be more specifically on the Celtics game 4 against Miami tomorrow. I might put a little bit of football stuff after the takeaways. There is some football stuff I want to do, actually, including with your Niners, Isaiah, where they officially announced that you can now add a third quarterback.
Yep.
Something where now, of course, Niner fans are telling, oh, now you want to do this rule. So that's obviously something there. We did have some comments tonight. Christy, hi, how are you doing? Hope things are going well. And congrats to the Nuggets. Sorry, Isaiah, on that. Poor Isaiah just got it absolutely just crushed for tonight, but I'll probably have the same feeling tomorrow. So you're not the only one. Yeah, so congrats to Nate's Nuggets. I know Nate was on earlier tonight, so we got his overall comments on that. And yes, make sure to obviously tune into tomorrow's program, Isaiah, as well. If there's any other comments you would like to have before we conclude tonight's program.
Yeah. Yeah, like Ben said, just tune into the Celtics post game show that he's gonna have tomorrow, win or lose. Also, I don't know when the next Batter Up or Sports Weekly will be. I know that I might be going on vacation on Wednesday until Saturday, so probably won't have time for the shows. But yeah, we'll definitely talk it out with each other and let you guys all know when's Batter Up. I know Loro has been wanting to do sports or Batter Up for a while now, so we may do a Batter Up on Sunday, depending on if our schedules all line up. So yeah, keep that of note. And the last thing I'll say is, sucks for the Lakers. They had a great season. Congratulations to Nate's Denver Nuggets on going to the NBA Finals. I can't wait to see, hopefully, Nuggets Heat. Can't wait to see that matchup. And great season to the Lakers. Nothing to really be ashamed of, given how we started and how we were looking like towards the end of the season. But it's going to be really fascinating this offseason to see where the Lakers go, starting from, if Darvin Ham is the guy or not, starting with the exit interviews, if LeBron is really retiring or not. And then, maybe we're going to get Kyrie, who knows, but it's definitely going to be very interesting this offseason to see what the Lakers are going to do. And I know, Ben, you're probably feeling the same way where, we're both kind of resigned to the fact that our teams are going to, get swept and get bounced out. And we're just looking forward to the offseason at this point.
Well, hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers that's not the case, and I can talk more tomorrow in a way where we have another game. But with that being said, alongside Isaiah Leon for tonight, thank you guys for joining tonight's program as always, and we'll see you tomorrow for the Celtics post game show for Game 4.